I was just trying to tell you that when I'm being serious about thanking you, there's a reason for it. I am one of those authors who can never forget that I write specifically to be read. And that for me, I can only build half the bridge, and the other half of the bridge has to be built by my readers. So I'm always very grateful when I have an audience. When I went to Ahmedabad many years ago with my book Cuckold, I was told in advance that, oh, you don't have to worry at all. There are going to be hundreds of people, at the very minimum 800, because that's the kind of audience that Shobha they had on their previous occasion. I try to tell them that I neither have Shobha's brains nor do I have Shobha's looks, but that didn't wash well with them. I turned up in Ahmedabad. Fortunately, there were 5 people in the audience, all of them members of Crossword. So I have been brought up well. I know that at times I have to read to myself, but today I'm genuinely grateful. I'm going to start now without any further ado. I'm going to read a letter that I wrote very recently.
Should I hold the mic? I can hold the mic.
I'm in trouble, I'll tell you. Okay, I'm going to start with it starts with postscript. This is the first time I'm starting a letter with a postscript instead of ending it with one. I finished this letter to you, Kanhaiya Kumar, last night, and must confess that not even in my worst scenario had I ever imagined that any educational institution would attempt to deprive its students of the sacred task of completing their education. As I have said time and again, the most sacrosanct space and institution in any country in the world is the university. It is hallowed ground because it is the crucible for the finest and the most creative talents in society. This is where the brand new zeros, the new Paninis, the Platos and Socrates, the Upanishads, the edge of the universe, frontier sciences, subatomic particles, the Upanishads, the Einsteins, the Narvikas, the Amartya Sens, the future Nobel laureates, the Thomas Pikettys, the environmental great souls and saviors, the critical inventions and discoveries of tomorrow are being mulled over, attempted, written and argued about. And now I open the newspapers to discover that the most retrograde, stifling and deadly virus has taken over the JNU and has proposed that Kanhaiya Kumar, Umar Khalid, Anirban Bhattacharya and 2 others be rusticated. They will not be allowed to study further, I am told, or complete their PhD, and like Rohit Varmila, will be asked to vacate the hostels. Not just them, 35 FTII students are also being charge-sheeted. Would we now prefer Zika brains, I'm talking about the virus, Zika brains, to young minds bursting with ideas and hopes and adventures of the mind? Has the governing party at the center learned absolutely nothing from what happened at the Central University in Hyderabad and how much it alienated the young and old of every youth? Where are you, Ravi Shankar Prasad, who had the honesty to say that the JNU had a fine tradition of scholarship? Dear Piyush Goel, we both come from the same alma mater, Don Bosco High School, and it was wonderful to hear you sing Our Father who art in heaven at a school function. Will you speak for the future of our vast cities and our country? Suresh Prabhu, Advani ji, Arun Shuri, how about you 3? Am I barking up the wrong tree? Are there no leaders in the BJP echelons who will have the courage and the integrity to stand up for intellectual freedom? Are you going to permit the provenance of Vidya, of knowledge, from Saraswati, to become the prisoner of politics? Is there nothing in the central cabinet who can tell, is there nobody in the central cabinet who can tell PM Modi that his Make in India will be stillborn if the university becomes the site for the persecution of independent ideas, that there is no greater killer crime than to deprive bright young people of their right to education. As usual, I've got my page mixed up. Okay. Now the letter starts. Dear Kanaya Kumar, my name is Kiran Nagarkar. You don't know me, and hence my name is irrelevant. Forgive me for presuming to intrude on your privacy, especially since you must be flooded with calls, emails, requests for interviews, etc. I can cite at least one reason why you should perhaps ignore this letter. I'm above 70, closer to 75, actually, and Mr. Modi has made it clear to the highly respected elders in his own party that they may as well disappear into Vanapasthasham, for they are obsolete and irrelevant. What I can assure you is that this is not a hate mail. On the contrary, I have chosen to write to you because I am deeply concerned about your safety and wish to offer a few perspectives on the peculiar situation you find yourself in. Needless to say, you are more than entitled to ignore my message, but enough preluding. What exactly did I mean by your situation being peculiar? Quite simply, you are perhaps the most admired PhD student in the world, as well as being the most reviled. You are the classic example of what appears to be a preconceived plot gone terribly wrong. For years now, the JNU has been the bête noire of the RSS and the BJP, and suddenly the powers that be in the HRD and Home Ministry seem to have been informed by the ABVP that the villains in the JNU den of iniquity were about to be caught red-handed with some anti-national speeches. The Home Minister made a highly explosive revelation. Apparently none other than the LTL chief, Hafiz Saeed, had supported the JNU event. Simultaneously, a few media channels representing governing theology went into overdrive and doctored the video footage, and lo and behold, they had discovered that you were committing sedition. But the next day it was clear that Rajnath Singh had failed to pull wool over the eyes of all but the die-hard Hindutva fanatics, since he had quoted from a fake Twitter account. You were taken into custody without the mandatory FIR, and the super patriotic, conscientious lawyers were good enough not only to beat you up, but also the most respected elders from their own community appointed by the Supreme Court. And Mr. Bassi single-handedly saved the nation from a repeat of the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. How can we ever thank him for the great service to the nation? But the plot unfortunately began to unravel, and the dirty tricks department of the BJP stood thoroughly exposed. The only reason I have detailed what is common knowledge is because I wanted to underline the fact that you have on your hands an anaconda that has been humiliated and stung, and will not rest, it has swallowed you whole, and there is not a trace of you left. They have already thrown every minister an accusation at you. No less a figure and lawyer than Mr. Arun Jaitley, who accused authors returning their Sahitya Akademi Awards of manufacturing crises, in quotes of course, and the PM himself had got into the act. Even the honorable judge who gave you 6 months bail had a very problematic view of sedition. It might be a good idea not to underestimate the fact that the honor and pride of the ruling party are bloodthirsty, and hence to sit with your highly respected counsel, Mr. Soni Swarajji, and formulate a carefully drafted strategy. Let me move to the matter of historical perspective on a word that occurred time and again in your most famous speech. Azadi, or freedom. You spoke nobly of fighting for a variety of freedoms. Freedom from poverty, freedom of speech, freedom from the abysmal lot of the Dalits, freedom from unemployment, freedom to survive droughts, famines, bankruptcy, and feed this nation by taking care of the beleaguered farmers, freedom that ensures the empowerment of women. And yet, you took for granted the one freedom which is the first freedom, the freedom from colonial rule and the winning of independence. Does anyone from your generation or that of your parents recall our utterly unique national narrative? That we are the only country in the world to win our independence through a non-violent civil disobedience movement against the mightiest empire in the world. And that we owe our first freedom to Gandhiji, Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, Abul Kalam Azad, and all the great leaders of the Congress, not to mention hundreds of thousands of our countrymen who stood by the doctrine of non-violence in the face of draconian laws and measures taken by the colonizer. Let's never forget that neither the Indian Marxists nor the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, or the various incarnations of the BJP were ever present or involved in the country's struggle for independence. Then as now, the only agenda that the RSS and its various affiliates, including the BJP, have is its rabid fanaticism and pure hatred for Muslims. One has merely to read the incredible provocative statements of the BJP leaders like the Union Minister of State for HRD. For HRD, I repeat, Mr. Ram Shankar Katheria, Ms. Kundalika Sharma, Yogi Adityanath, egging their members to dire violence against the Muslim population and even the Christians. The BJP rank and file have nothing but contempt for the Dalits, as you, Kanhaiya, discovered when Rohit committed suicide, and they vociferously fell back on endless lies to defend their despicable role of his death. As to the communists, even as late as 1962, Jyoti Basu and others of the same ideology were justifying the Chinese invasion of the country. As a PhD student at JNU, I hope you never forget that it was the Congress cadres at all levels which fought for and won our freedom. And that the first betrayal and appalling corruption of the Congress ideals came, as is often the case in world history, from its own ranks. While I don't want to forget that Lenin, Stalin and Mao, amongst the three of them, committed genocides amounting to 80 or 90 million of their own people, it is not my intention to keep harping on the so-called communist past in India. While the RSS and the BJP are stuck in their deadly, divisive Hindutva agenda and their obsession with unbridled crony capitalism, the communists hopefully will get down to fighting the good fight once again. That's if they can get their act and their elan together for the poor, whether they be Dalits, farmers or laborers, the utterly marginalized tribals, or the millions of jobless in the cities and towns of our country. This is where perhaps your biggest contribution could be. First of all, it is extremely important that these different groups coalesce and can no longer be ignored. Our political parties have learned their lesson from our colonial invade masters. Divide and rule. They play one group against the other and wake up only during election time to exploit that feckless institution called the vote bank. You and your colleagues must put an end to this practice to start off with. But much more important than this is the urgent need to replace old and moribund strategies with new and highly effective ones. For instance, how long are we going to let successive governments butcher the so-called Naxalites or magic the Dalits? While the grievances of the tribals and others are very real, their responses have become hidebound, and so is the public reaction to them. Not only do we need to present their case in a far more affecting way, but you need to totally rethink the whole game plan by which the depressed and the damned can assert their rights. The new tactics must always be within the ambit of the law, so that when push comes to shove, the wretched of the earth will never be caught on the wrong side of the law and suffer for it. If you have the time, I would like you to read at least the first act of my play, Bedtime story, which deals with the tribal prince Ekalavya. Never forget that Ekalavya was a self-made man and yet was a better archer than Arjun. But even more to the point, the first act will show you how Ekalavya squares matters with the wily Dronacharya. Education is one hell of a key, but so are IT and other smart modern technologies. Let the roving cameras of young men and women expose the shenanigans of the zamindars and the political hoodlums. You have to make sure that over a period of time that you have a whole phalanx of your colleagues who are superb, dedicated lawyers, so that no judge can get away with dubious judgments. Where would you? Where would you have been if someone or the other had not caught you making an impassioned but legally perfectly valid speech on camera? Again, if you're fighting for the good cause, you need to know how to use the media to your advantage. All in good time. Let's first focus on the subject of your safety in terms of your frame of mind. I want to underline how you are at risk from yourself. And to do that, I would like you to take a look at the DVD of a documentary film called Amy. Perhaps you've already seen it. Perhaps jazz leaves you cold. Never mind. Watch it. Amy Winehouse was a brilliant singer. She wrote her own songs. By the time she was 17 or 18, she was a phenomenally successful artist. The camera loved her, and so did millions of her fans. She broke many a record, but at what cost? She had vanished from life at 23 or 24. The phenomenon is called burnout. You have been in the glare of publicity. The demands made on you are colossal. The BJP and the RSS colleagues hate you, and your fans across the country adore you. It's a bad mix. Nay, it's a deadly mix. Never underestimate the stresses and strains of being in your shoes. There's absolutely no shame in getting some psychological help to keep your focus on sanity while keeping the burnout syndrome at bay. You and all the younger generations of today are crucial to that venture called India. Its success or failure depends on what all of you bring to the table, and so long as you keep the flame of integrity and openness alive. For our own sakes, I wish you all the very best. Warmest regards, Kiran. I want to tell you about the importance of chance, about accidents. I come from a family where Gandhiji did not get place of pride. Nehru.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, please forgive me that I make a hash of it every time I'm told about it. Anyway, Nehru was, of course, top of the order. On the 15th of August 1947, I remember my father getting a huge big flag for flag for a tiny apartment and putting it up. So I was telling you about Gandhi. When I was 18 and I was in Xavier's College, where you cannot imagine how out of my depth I was. You know, Xavier's, as I've told you before, does not have any girls or women, only apsaras and Muris. And there was Kiran Nagarkar with trousers 4 inches shorter than where they should have reached the ankles. You know, just looking at these women, completely lost. And of course, I managed what I suspect no other student in Xavier's had managed. I plugged every single subject in my 6-monthly exams. And for the final exams, I did even better. I got typhoid, followed by, of all the things, smallpox. I mean, my parents were fairly they were enlightened. They had given me the damn, what is it, antivirus or whatever it is. And, but I got it, Anything to get attention from my parents and from everybody else. But it posed a very serious problem. I was kept in quarantine in my home because my doctor was very kind to me. He knew me for years and years. And I was not allowed to meet anybody. In those days, they used to make you bathe with hot water with neem leaves. I'm told it still works, I don't know. But can you imagine having 104 or 105 fever and not having a damn thing to read? It was, it was pure despair and desperation. So the only book that I could lay my hands on, which is why I brought up the subject of accidents and chance, was a biography by William S. Scherer of Mahatma Gandhi. You can imagine how reluctant I was to read it, okay? And Mere Pitaji, didn't think much of this guy. This flimsy, wispy man with that horrible wispy voice of his. Nantara describes it very well. She was, I think, perhaps 4 years old, and Vijayalakshmi Pandit got her out to say hello to Gandhiji. She took one look at him and said, I don't want to meet this man. Can't bear the sight of him. And imagine what Gandhi did. He just, how Danny said, she's so right. So, we can never beat Gandhi's sense of humor. But I'm going to, Scherer, who wrote extensively about Hitler, and a magnificent author who spent time with none other than Gandhiji. He does not have the faintest inkling of hagiography. He is absolutely down to earth, and which is why he sees all of Gandhiji's faults and yet knows in the deepest recesses of his heart that here is truly a great man. I just read one sentence from Einstein. I'm doing all this because I suspect, since I'm not allowed to go to colleges, I keep begging colleges to ask me over because I want to keep telling them about the first freedom and the most important freedom, and I think they don't want to hear about it. But, so there are young people here. I would beg you, even at the risk of hating Gandhiji, to take a look at the book, okay? I'm sorry. Okay, this is what Einstein said. Generations to come, it may well be, will scarce believe that such a man as this one, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon the earth. I read it very badly, please forgive me. But this is Einstein, Gandhiji must have been some guy, Take a look at him, okay? Let's not drop him out of sight. And let's not, please, let's not forget the first freedom. How can we even begin to talk about our culture or whatever it is if we are not even aware of Gandhiji? Are we gone off? Truly, have we become so dead? 120th anniversary of Jawaharlal Nehru, what did he do? Nothing. We forgot him because he's persona non grata anymore. But who fought? Yes, it is true that we have been very unfair to Vallabhbhai Patel. But the way to make up to Vallabhbhai Patel is not to build a statue to him. It's absurd. You start following the principles that he followed. Of course they had differences of opinion. Good Lord, man, have you seen me with my friends? Or even with my companion? I have nothing but differences of opinion. What are you guys talking about? So, let's not, this tendency either to have something out there in the sea when that money could go into a fantastic hospital or something like that. Where is this coming from? How come you and I don't stand up and say, this will not do? Which brings me now to the subject of this particular talk. I have this to say to all of you. Please interrupt me. If you don't want me to read from the play, and there is a bit on video where the lovely and very fine actress, look at Sonali Kulkarni read the portions from Draupadi, and I just did the numbers. I read the portion of Arjun, Dharmaraj. If you don't want me to read or see the video, you have every right to tell me just now. There is no problem. I know I read a long time just now, but this is your session, okay? If you want to talk, just talk and ask me questions, and I will give you, I am the current Pope now. I give you all the wrong answers, not to worry on that computer. So, you tell me and we will proceed that way. The youngsters, do you want me to, talk, okay? Please.
I'd love to know why people don't stand up against that statue going into the sea. Why does no one bother?
You're absolutely right. Why does no one? Part of the reason being, if I may be honest enough to talk about it, is that because their methods are, as you have seen, immediate violence. Can you imagine anybody beating a policewoman up? Because she told that guy, don't speak on the damn telephone, the cell phone. And they're going to take his license away for 6 months. It should be taken away for all his life. The man should never be allowed. But this is why because not once have the courts said, you say that one more time, you threaten our people and you're behind bars. They have never said it. Can you believe that jurisprudence in this country is afraid of these people? So we have to speak up. I completely accept what you're saying. The only guys who are going to ultimately stand up are the youngsters. It's a terrible responsibility that we're putting on their shoulders, but that's the way it is.
Sir, sorry, what I actually feel is, we treat this as a democracy.
Yeah.
What we do is, we religiously go on a voting booth if we are in town and if it is not a long weekend to go and vote.
Yeah.
Beyond that, our so-called, that's what I hear everywhere, our Mai-Baap Sarkar is supposed to look after us.
Yes.
From artists to retired actors and actresses to, the dramas, downward to the toilets on the road and right to pee, everything we look up to Mai-Baap Sarkar. Now, I think we all are at fault where we should say, you are not our, fatherly government. We elected you, and for majority of the things you must listen to us. Now, I'll give you 2 examples. One is a bullet train. 98,000 crores from Mumbai to Ahmedabad, and for a change, I agree with Raj Thackeray when he says, you go to Ahmedabad, eat fafda and come back. Frankly, we have more than dozens of the flights going there every day. Second is, in Maharashtra, other drought-prone areas like Vidarbha and Marathwada, they are actually sucking the water from the land because of the sugar plantations and the sugar mills there. Now when you don't have enough water to raise vegetable, who gave you a right to go up to creating so much of sugar? Tell me, sir, in your daily food or anybody, we do not eat more than 2 to 3% of the sugar. Why do we need so many 128 odd sugar plants here?
No, I'm with you entirely.
And it's not because of a particular party has come to power and we don't speak. I think we have not been speaking since independence. And this is what we are, and that's why we are ruled rather than ruling anybody. That's my guess about,
No, I think you're perfectly right. I mean, I would leave the youngsters to respond to this also. You know, it's terrible for me to say that you guys are youngsters and what that makes of me. Now, no, these are important points that he has raised. You have to tell me right now, shall we drop the idea of reading from Bedtime story and seeing Sonali?
I think we should say it.
No,
I think we should say it.
Is it okay?
I think the way you've done stuff in your, I think it's important that we discuss it.
Okay, we'll do it. The reason why,
Sir, but before that, I also wanted to ask you, if you can elaborate on, I think this drama was banned, right? So, if you can elaborate on how did it happen, how did you yourself fight against it? I mean, what had happened, why was it banned?
So let's
So,
see.
who stood up for that?
Let's see it, because if we say it first, then we'll have a context and that will help
Context,
us
yeah.
understand.
Sure.
Yeah?
at some point in time, I would also like to read short bits about Ekalavya. So would you rather do the Draupadi first or would you have to do the
I think the
Ekalavya?
Ekalavya first. If you read the book, I think the Ekalavya first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yours, have you marked yours? Okay, fine.
About the
Take the cover off.
Okay. There are some people perhaps who are not familiar with the Ekalavya story. Let me just tell it in 3 or 4 lines. This is a tribal prince, Ekalavya. I love the name Ekalavya. I don't know why, but he lives like a good tribal in the forest, and the 5 Pandavas and the 100 Kauravas are being taught in the forest by Dronacharya, the great teacher, the great guru. Because I am playing with the form itself, you will find that they have just been to a film festival, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. This is partly because if I am told just now, Kiran, there's a movie showing outside there, I'll abandon all of you and go explain. But it's as bad as that. So of course the play starts with that, with the movie, and then Dronacharya suddenly comes into his own and teaches the students. It's when he's teaching the students, it is very clear that the finest archer that he has in mind is Arjuna, the 3rd Pandava. Okay, that we all know the story. The first library, which I have always mentioned, is the first library is your grandmother, and your grandmother is the one who's always telling you these stories, right? I missed out on the grandmother on either side, but I remember the story. And Ekalavya enters the scene. Okay. Ekalavya appears from behind a bush and throws himself at Dronacharya's feet. Dronacharya, your name? Ekalavya, one who seeks only your blessings. Dronacharya, your name? Ekalavya, one whose heart holds a single desire this past year. Has held it, only one desire this past year. Dronacharya, your name? Ekalavya, one who dares to aspire to become your student. Ekalavya. Dronacharya, arise. Ekalavya, your blessings, Guru. Dronacharya, and if I don't bless you, Ekalavya, I can but request. Dronacharya, let us see the face behind the request. Ekalavya stands up. Whose son are you? Black Ekalavya, that is enough. The rest is history. For one constant year have I watched you and your gifted students, never closing my eyes like a vigilant God. Every second of every day I wanted to throw myself at your feet. And every second, every day I lost heart. Until today, Arjun's answer gave me courage. Dronacharya, be patient, boy. You have spoken much. 10 words when 2 would have done, but there are limits that you may not overstep. Arjun is a prince. Who are you to address him by his name? I am Ekalavya, son of the earth and the future king of the tribe of Bils. I am proud to call Arjun the third Pandava by his name, Dronacharya. A Bhil, a Mahar, a Lepa. There is no place for subtle distinctions among the untouchables. Ekalavya, call me what you like. Make me do any kind of work, keep me awake day and night. Make me clean up garbage, leftovers, shit. I am ready to serve all mankind. All 100 Kauravas and the 5 Pandavas. Dare me if you wish, I'll be your slave forever. It's Dronacharya. If I wish, why, you're a slave as it is. I am letting you off lightly today because of your youth. But if you dare come before me again, I will sever your head from your body without a second thought. Remember that. Ekalavya, is that your final word? Drona, it is. I just want to say one thing before I proceed with the rest of it. I don't know how mothers tell or grandmothers tell this story. When I was told this story, it was absolutely emblematic of the way the student, of the relationship between the guru and the student. At any cost, the guru had to be respected. Okay, here's Ekalavya's answer. To Dronacharya says, is that your final word? Ekalavya says, and Dronacharya says, it is. Ekalavya, if you change your mind, I will not hold it against you. Take your time, Dronacharya. Don't give me a rash answer in the heat of the moment. Can you see the reversal of roles already? Arjun, is there anything you wish to say? Your skill is such that it adds luster to your guru's teaching. Accept me as your student, and I'll be forever grateful to you. Or make Dronacharya change his decision. In either case, you will find me beside you in your hour of direst need, when I will gladly give up my life for you. Arjun shrinks away, shaking his head, partly scared, partly confused. Arjun, never, even if my life were at stake, would I offend my guru. And if another dares to, he would have to pay with his life. Ekalavya, noble sentiments from a noble prince. So, I will have to pay with my life, right? Arjun, your sword will never learn their lesson through persuasion. One day I will make you bite the dust. When is an irrelevant question. Ekalavya, you won this round, there will be another. The sun will go into a sudden eclipse. In that premature twilight, the distinction between reality and illusion will become blurred. The sky will change, circumstances will change, and you do not even remember that we had met before. Honored Guru, I prostrate myself before you, but from a distance. That's because of the shadow, of course. Think kindly of your student. I'm going to read the third act now, okay, only just part of it. Third scene, I beg your pardon. What is happening is that all the students are out in the forest and they see a deer. And Duryodhan or Suyodhan, I call him Suyodhan because which mother is going to call her son Duryodhan for God's sake? So Suyodhan says that, hey, it'd be lovely if we were able to give this beautiful deer to our mother. And Dronacharya's answer is this. You want it alive, don't you? What's stopping you then? Take it. It's your kingdom. Arjun, how? It disappeared almost before we saw it. Dronacharya, What are those deadly hounds for if not to give chase? Arjun ordered them to surround the deer without harming a hair of its body. We'll follow. As luck will have it, of course, something goes wrong. Arjun, they've got the deer already. Truly the hound is the only dog worth having. Let's go and claim our deer. Dronacharya, don't be a fool. I smell danger. The dogs have been killed or something terrible has happened to them. You must be wary. Suryodhan, how suddenly the sun has been eclipsed. I can't believe my eyes. The deer is nowhere in sight and yet the dogs stand there petrified, a single arrow holding them at bay. Bhim, who dares hold our arms to ransom? Let me get rid of the arrow and then I'll show the bastard. He makes a move to rush into the wings. Dronacharya, don't move anybody. There has been enough foolishness for one day. Arjun, set those hounds free with one of your special missiles. Arjun fixes an arrow to the bow and sends it flying. Everybody looks surprised and then, with the exception of Dronacharya, they all burst out laughing. Arjun looks mortified. Suryodhan, well, Arjun Rao, the greatest archers have become powerless, have they? Sushasana, cheer up, cousin. With a little bit of luck, you'll be doing worse than that. Dronacharya, silence. Our lives are in danger. This is no time for mockery. And Ekalavya, stop chasing my deer and your hounds will be free. Dronacharya, no, Arjun, sorry, I beg pardon. We are princes. The kingdom is ours, its people are ours, geography is ours, history is ours, the air is ours, you are ours. The deer certainly is ours. Ekalavya, take it if it's yours. Dronacharya, don't take what Arjun says to heart. He's young, like you, and he doesn't know when to give in. Who do I have the pleasure of? Arjun interrupted angrily, but only loud enough for Drona. Given? I? When you had promised that nobody on earth will be my equal in archery? Dronacharya, who are you? Ekalavya, the deer is mine. Dronacharya, yes, of course, the deer is yours, Arjun. Deer is yours. Arjun, it is not right for a prince to covet his people's property. Who are you? Ekalavya, Black Ekalavya, and your student Dronacharya. I prostrate myself at your feet. You asked me my name as a mere formality, but you knew who I was, didn't you? Dronacharya, don't we always know? Arjun a little louder this time. But you have promised, Dronacharya. Promises must subserve circumstance, Arjun. The man who comes to terms with reality is a wise man. To Ekalavya, I have never seen such fantastic archery in my life. Praise be to your Guru. He is a fortunate man indeed to have so gifted a student. Ekalavya, we have the same Guru, Dronacharya. Your pupil is an eye. Look, there he is. Take a good look at him. Ekalavya points to a small image of Dronacharya. Every single day for the last 5 years, I prostrated myself before your image and asked for your blessings. Then in that total non-light where no bird stirred, where there was neither moon nor starlight, where no candle was lit, where the sun itself could not pierce the green-black denseness of the jungle, I practiced. Dronacharya, it is a fantastic tale. I would not have believed such skill was possible had I not seen it with my own eyes. Imagine what feats you could have performed had you trained under me instead of my image. Ekalavya, you had the opportunity, Dronacharya, but you spurned it. Dronacharya, how true, how true. Arjun, louder and more insistent this time. Dronacharya, how often must I remind you of your promise that I will be the finest archer in the world? Dronacharya, so you will? You will. Truly, Ekalavya, I have no words with which to praise you. What you achieve with your bow lies beyond the imagination of man. I feel fulfilled with the faith you have shown in me. I must go now, but not without honoring you by accepting the gift from you. Your Guru Dakshina. Ekalavya. That is your right and my privilege. Dronacharya. Just a small remembrance, Ekalavya. A mere token. Ekalavya. Command me, Dronacharya. Dronacharya. Are you sure you will not refuse? Ekalavya. You have no reason to doubt me. Dronacharya. That is true. But if you refuse, I will not be able to tolerate the insult. Because it will be an insult to the most deeply cherished and honored tradition of our culture. The Guru-Shishya relationship. It is through this tradition that knowledge, virtue and religion are perpetuated. Ekalavya, you have only to ask Dronacharya. Ask without hesitation. Dronacharya. Alright then. A small gift. The thumb of your right hand. Nobody can believe his ears, even Arjun. Even Arjun's mouth falls open in shock. Only Ekalavya's expression remains unchanged. Ekalavya, so be it. He bends down, picks up a little earth, spits in it, molds it into the shape of a thumb, places it on a leaf, goes down on his knees and offers it to Dronacharya in cupped hands. Like Guru, like gift. Jaisa Guru, Vaisi Guru Dakshina. I'm always grateful that this answer does evoke some kind of response. But if you were standing there and you were on Dronacharya's side, you would think 100 times before saying, wow, this is the right answer. So, my question to all of us starting from me is, it's fine in a play, isn't it? What if one of the Dalits, fully respectful of the great teacher, yet uses this? How would we respond? It's a question that I think each one of us will have to think very carefully about. But thank you for listening to this. Shall we move to the shop? Yeah? Is that alright with you? Yes. What I'm not doing is that there are two acts from which I have taken the I beg your pardon. I have taken the Draupadi bits, okay? The first one, as you all know, let me just repeat it anyway, is that Arjun brings this lovely woman back as his wife, right? And he's standing outside and he calls out to his mother and he says, hey mom, look what I've got for you. And what does Kunti say? Share it with your 4 other brothers, right? That's when Draupadi comes into this particular scene. And then the next scene is when Dharmaraj or Dhritarashtra plays his own wife and the wife of all the other 4. He uses her as a, what do you call these things? Not the coins, but pawn, as a pawn. And Draupadi, her response is, let's say, flammable. Mother, where are you, mother? You'll never guess, not in 7 lifetimes, what a beautiful, beautiful gift I brought for you. Kunti, off stage. Arjun dear, I haven't the patience to wait for 7 lifetimes. Whatever it is that you brought for me, share it with your brothers as usual. There's a paralyzed silence.
Arjun, tell your mother, it isn't a new kingdom. or a chocolate cake that you have brought for her this time. Tell her it's a living woman who talks and laughs and is mad with joy and belongs to you alone and cannot be shared amongst the five of you.
Arjun collapses on his knees in anguish. What have you done, mother? What have you done? The same silence again. Draupadi begins to suspect there's something terribly wrong, but she can't take the situation seriously yet.
Arjun, stop playing games. Why can't you be plain with her? Nothing so terrible or irrevocable has happened that it can't be explained. Call her out. Let her see me. She knows as well as anyone that a woman is not an object for a man to possess, but a human being in her own right, equal to him and happy to be his companion.
Kunti offstage. Arjun, tell her I cannot come out today. It is my time of the month.
You need not come out, but you can at least take back your word.
Dharmaraj, a mother's word is never withdrawn.
Who said so?
Bhim, that's the rule of this house anyway.
Let's change our house, Arjun.
Arjun, how can I go back on my mother's word?
For heaven's sake, Arjun, you can't tie yourself down for life to something she said through sheer misunderstanding. How soon have you forgotten this morning? You fixed your arrow to the bow, and your sinews stood up hard and taut. Your left leg placed precisely 18 inches ahead of your right. Your body balanced upon your feet with such delicate sureness that an earthquake could not have shaken you. Your eyes focused in effortless concentration. Never before had I set eyes on so perfect a man. Your arrow flew forth, and lost in ecstasy, I moved forward to touch you. I stumbled for a moment on the edge of the dais and came down to earth. My eyes met Karna's, and I knew that he alone in that vast gathering had seen my soul stripped naked. The blood drained out of my face, not with shame, but from habit. Come, Arjun. This morning's promise still waits impatiently for fulfillment. Give me your hand.
Arjun moves forward to put his hand in hers. As their hands touch, his excited brothers react sharply. Dharmaraj, Arjun, you no longer have sole right over her. Bhim, we're all partners. Nakul, even small fry like us. Sahadev and Draupadi is our capital.
You have all gone stark raving mad. You are going to share me just because Mummy said so? And you expect me to turn myself into a 5-day roster to please you? I am supposed to divide myself into 5 portions. Listen to me, Arjun, and listen well. You won me in fair competition. Those 4 brothers of yours lost. If I stay here, I stay as your wife, not as the mistress of 5 brothers. Are you coming with me or aren't you?
Arjun, I brought you here with such hopes and dreams, Draupadi. I humbled the Kauravas with your help. If anybody had dared to suggest that the daughter-in-law of the Pandava house would not get along with her mother-in-law, I would have slit his throat.
Then come and slit my throat, my dear petticoated husband, because that's just what I'm saying. I'll never see eye to eye with that invisible mother of yours, not even in 7 lifetimes.
A mother's word is sacred. We are 5 brothers and there's not a trace of jealousy or envy amongst us. Not even in the legends will you find love to equal ours. The world will be dazzled by you and Arjun, the perfect couple. But when all 5 of us unite with you, the very heavens will gaze upon us wonderstruck. Sex is only the animal aspect of love. Man transcends the animal in him with a sublime fusion of souls.
You can't be serious. I've never heard anybody talk such sanctimonious drivel and believe it. Your name is Dharma, isn't it? The guardian of truth and Dharma. You're supposed to be the most truthful of all men. Then tell your brother that you don't have a ghost of a right over his wife.
Dharmaraj, in accordance with the rules of Swayamvar, We brothers have indeed no right over Arjun's wife. But truth is the slave of time. Today's truth is the sovereign truth. Mother spoke many hours after your Sayamvar. What she says carries greater weight by virtue of time. And so, I have the first right to enter your bed, Draupadi.
Mama's little pet? How much more wool are you going to pull over your eyes and mine? If you want me, say so. If you had been honest about it, I might even have let you have me once. Just once. Bhim, you have no intellectual pretensions. You don't torture words to turn black into white. You understand, don't you? That I am not your wife.
Mother said you belong to all of us.
They're all alike. Every single brother wants to sleep with me. But I would rather drop dead than have anything to do with them. Listen to me, God. Wherever you are. I lay my curse on Pandu's progeny. May the nectar of success always turn to poison at their lips. May Kunti's sons be snatched away from her, the way she has snatched my husband away from me.
Dharmaraj, careful Draupadi. You two now belong to the house of Pandu.
I'm off. If I have to prostitute myself, why stop at 5 men? Over there stand the 100 Kauravas, all lusting after me, with Karna thrown in as a bonus. Karna, mine has been a terrible mistake. How I have wronged you. Don't forgive me, ever. Punish me every hour, but save me from these mealy-mouthed hypocrites. I can't bear this humiliation, Karna. How far I have travelled in these 12 hours. From a princess to a prostitute.
Karna continues to look into the distance, but pulls Draupadi close to him and caresses her face with great tenderness. How long is it since I saw you last? 10 years? Or was it 15 or 50? You were young then, and I was in love with you. When I saw you for the first time in the marriage hall, something snapped violently within me. But snapping, it didn't break me, only released me, so that when I breathed in, I felt the whole earth entering me, and when I breathed out, it was as if the universe was rushing out of me. It was so pure and untouched by experience. You could have demanded anything of me, and I would have grown in the fulfillment of each demand. I was ready to challenge the world on the strength of my tiny, borrowed kingdom. But it was morning then, and now it is 90 minutes since the sun went down.
Karna, I too have travelled as great a distance as the sun in that time. Take me with you, and let us forget what happened today.
Karna, it was morning then, and you were my first love. Now it is night. All you can give me is what any two-bit slut of Forest Road could give me. Let it be.
You played a game of dice and lost your kingdom and family just for kicks. Who do you think I am? A cow? Or buffalo? Or sheep from your farm? Or a multicolored fish from your lake? Or a chair? Or your jester? Or a rose or a peepal tree? Or do you think I am Nishad Garden from Kashmir? Or the nail of your toe? Or the nail of your little toe that you can so casually ruin my life when the mood takes you? And you, my gutless husbands, where were you while your brother was busy distributing us around like largesse?
Sadev, Dada said everything would turn out all right.
He did he? And if he had told you to jump off the Eiffel Tower, you would have done it, I suppose.
Sadev, sure, even if you had told us.
God forbid that I should ever demand the most precious thing in your life itself. Bhim, my fearless, full-blooded husband, there you stand, obsessively hugging your arms. And yet you couldn't use that magnificent body to save yourself, could you?
Draupadi, Do you remember how I came by this amulet Dronacharya tied on my arm? I said I didn't believe in all this mumbo jumbo. And do you know what he told me? This is not a lucky charm, Beam. It won't change your future. It merely stands for a state of mind. It contains within it a commonplace but immortal platitude. Don't open it now, he said. Someday when you're wildly happy or sunk in despair, you'll involuntarily hug your arms. Open the amulet then if you wish. Profundities are all right for philosophizing, but it is cliches that see us through life. Today when Dharmaraj lost, the amulet bit into my flesh. I opened it and found a note. It said, "These days too will pass." Draupadi, I promise you by everything I hold sacred, these days too will pass. Not of their own accord, but because I'll bring heaven and earth together to make them.
Our very lives have been destroyed and you sit there consoling yourself that these days too will pass? But tell me, Bhim, tell me, how did such days come to pass? Who cast this curse upon us?
Bhim, I am not praising myself, Draupadi, but honestly, after Dada staked me and lost the game, I pleaded with him to stop. What is the worst that Suyodan and his 99 brothers could have done to me? Worked me like a beast? It wouldn't have bothered me one bit, so long as I knew that you, Dada and Arjun were safe.
God, how revolting you are, and how sick in the head. What happened to that strong, straightforward mind inside it? All this pious rot about self-sacrifice and martyrdom? If this is how the canker has eaten, there is no hope for us. If a man will not fight for his own freedom, how can he be trusted with the freedom of others? And you, Arjun? I'm sure you too have a fail-safe, foolproof alibi.
Arjun, let bygones be bygones, Draupadi. I begged Dada to stop playing, but what could he do? All the statistics were on his side. The Rand Corporation's report assured him of victory.
How could I have worshipped so callous and inhuman a man? Do you really believe that human beings are statistical figures to be quietly liquidated between the pages of a report?
Dharmaraj, Draupadi, don't work yourself up like this. The fault is entirely mine. I see everything clearly now. The Kauravas played a crooked game. Any impartial inquiry would reveal Shakuni Mama's evil hand in all this.
Possibly. If you had won, people would have said the same thing about you. But that's beside the point. The only point is that nobody has a right over another's life, and I am going to use it to cut myself free from all of you.
Suyodan, right? A slave has only one right, to obey his master's command. I have had my fill of your harangues. The sooner you accept your new status, the easier it will be for you.
The new status is utterly irrelevant to me. I was once the wife of Pandavas, but no longer.
Sushasan, not so fast. He pulls up at the end of her sari. Where do you think you're going, my lovely? She struggles. It won't take a jiffy to bring you down from your high horse. He fiddles with her blouse.
Bhim! Arjun! Save me! How can you let them do this to me? Oh God, Krishna, where are you?
Sushasan, didn't you divorce them just now? Then why are you calling on them now? You've got all of us instead. He shows Draupadi's thigh. You'll never stop for sex again. Bhim lets out an enraged yell. Bhim, remember this, Sushasan? One day I'll tear open that thigh and drink the blood from it, or my name isn't Bhim. Dharmaraj, there's no point getting angry, Bhim. We can no longer afford that luxury.
Arjun! Are you going to listen to that jellyfish brother of yours? How can you bear to watch what's happening? Cleave Sushasan with a single arrow and cover my nakedness in his blood.
Arjun, how can I make you understand, Draupadi? We are lost, and under the law, losers have no rights.
Who has lost, Arjun? How can you submit to the outcome of a game that was played without your knowledge and without your consent?
Arjun, it's a gentleman's agreement, Draupadi.
And you watch like a gentleman while Kauravas manhandle me. Who do I see here today? The wisest and oldest upholders of our civilization. There they sit, the lecherous voyeurs, watching one of their senile fantasies come true. But mark my words, if you don't stop these blackguards now, the winds of war will sweep this land bare. Krishna! Oh Lord Krishna, where are you?
Karna, what sin is there in stripping the mistress of 5 men? Harlots don't cause wars, nor does God appear at their bidding.
Wait, Karna. Wait. Let me look at you. Let me look at the face of vengeance sated. Would you believe it if I told you that your joy today is the only thing I share with all my heart? I want to murder those old maid husbands of mine, and those Kaurava barbarians, and all those dirty old men, very slowly and painfully. But you, I can't forget the price you've had to pay for this moment. I want you to know that I will gladly give myself to you anytime, even if it is merely to satisfy a random lust.
Sushas, Draupadi, you can't leave the game halfway. We want a complete striptease. Hey, start the music.
Stop this! Stop! Krishna, for God's sakes, stop it! Lord, if only I could die!
Krishna, stop this demonic game. No more of this perversion. I will not stand by and watch it.
Yet you watched it long enough.
I was waiting for your call, Draupadi.
What sort of God are you that needs calling?
Do you think God is merely your local answering service, Draupadi? I'm here now, aren't I? And that's what matters. Calm down, Draupadi. If I'd had a hint of this earlier, I would have stopped this whole shameful scheme of the Kauravas before it started.
4 years old, when you opened your mouth to give Mother Yashoda a glimpse of the universe. And today, a trivial matter like this didn't get through your omniscience because some petty circuit or chip failed, I suppose.
I was bidding my time, Draupadi. I believe in giving people a long rope to hang themselves by.
And if an innocent woman gets caught up while you are busy doling out rope, so what?
Didn't I come before anything untoward happened? Let anyone try to touch a hair of your head now.
No one here is interested in touching my hair.
Stop playing with words, Draupadi.
Why? You didn't grow weary watching the Kauravas playing with me?
Oh, how bitter you've grown in one day, Draupadi. How deeply these people must have hurt you. My poor, tired little child.
Krishna, take me home with you. Please. I don't have an ounce of strength left in me now.
Who am I to take you away, Draupadi? Your place is with your husbands.
But they've sold themselves. Their brains, souls, bodies and all. I'll have to go with you.
I'm sorry. That's not possible. You two have been exiled with them.
Aren't you God? My Vithoba, my Khandoba, my Panduranga, my Brahma. Then why do you continue to torment me? Just tell these people that nobody can stake me against my will.
It's you who needs telling. I never meddle in the personal affairs of human beings. If I did, it would make nonsense of the doctrine of free will.
Free will? Then I am telling you of my own free will to take me away from here. Krishna, then you come?
To save you from the shameless Kauravas.
How will a shameless god save me from shame? Nothing can shame me now. Instead of whoring for 5 men, I'll be mistress to 100. But never will I go back to the Pandavas or their god with a begging bowl.
Okay, that's done. I think we should talk now. You should talk and I should listen. Please.
Tell us how this played out and it got banned. How did the whole episode play out?
I wrote this, I started writing it just before the emergency. I had no idea that it would become so relevant during the emergency. And when I finished it, I asked Dr. Lagu whether we could do a reading in his house. And we did have a reading in his house. He was very keen on doing it. He called all the, for the first reading, he called the elders from the Marathi community. And that was a time, I'm going to tell you about this because it brought something to my notice which has stayed in my mind throughout. When there were many people there for that reading, he was in his own house. And my own publisher in Marathi, someone who was extremely highly regarded, Shripu Bhagwat, the chief publisher and editor of MOUS, which was the primary education house in those days. He was there, and as soon as the play got over, I just looked up and I saw him. He was a very fair man. I mean, I'm talking about complexion. And he was a scarlet red. And he took me off in front of everybody else, quite right there. He said, "You don't know a damn thing about Bhishma Pitamaha. And even then you have written this play, written in ignorance." I had to pay attention to what he was saying. After all, he was not only my publisher, but I respected him enormously. And it took me many years to understand that Bhishma was indeed, perhaps the noblest soul in that entire epic. The curious thing is that, having admitted to that, it also confirmed my belief in what I had said. Because if you look at Bhishma now, as I did when I wrote my novel Couplet, then one of the things that you realize is that here is a man who is truly unique, who is always willing to sacrifice his own, very own interest for someone else. He is truly a man whose moral compass is perpetually active and in fine shape. And yet what you discover is that when push comes to shove, I'm really sad to say, every time Bhishma does not say a word. He did not say a word when Draupadi was disrobed. He did not say a word when they went to war. Somebody had to say, this is complete madness. This whole war is absolutely uncalled for. The only one who has had the guts to say it is dear Arjun. And it is to contradict him and to make him turn full circle around, Krishna of course tells him the Gita. It is an absolutely unbelievably fine piece of philosophy. It makes you so proud, and yet, if you're honest, very often it also poses, the Gita poses, internal contradictions and problems, which all of us, if we are willing to do it, have to grapple with. It does not in any way reduce the enormity and the greatness of that tremendous document. But let's not forget, and the whole reason why I wrote this was because I thought one has the freedom with something so unusual as the Mahabharata to question it again and again. And if I think that Vishnu Pitamaha let us down, and if you think completely otherwise, damn good. That is why this is supposed to be a secular democratic nation. It allows us to think in various ways. We might not care for what the other person is saying. And I don't want to repeat Voltaire here because now it has become a cliche. And we don't mean what Voltaire really meant by that tremendous statement. But can we understand this? That we can and must have differences of opinion. Otherwise, why was the Gita written? And the Mahabharata, I mean, how can you not love the Mahabharata? It's like saying, I don't like the Iliad. What? How can I, do I want to live without the Iliad or the Odyssey? No. These are tremendous philosophical tracts. They tell you stories that are absolutely unforgettable. But you have to come to grips with them. Are we doing that? I mean, the Germans came around here and they were going to teach German to 1,000 schools. We stopped. What? Don't we want every culture in the world to be ours? I don't want only this country. I'm glad that, how can I ever escape being an Indian? It's in my blood. I don't have to say I'm an Indian. But for God's sake, I also want to say, hey, very softly, Tolstoy is my cousin. And so is Garcia Marquez. Why will I not want to own every single one of the greats? Whether it is Goethe or whoever it is. What is going on with this country? Why can't, I think we all have very long arms. We can embrace anything in the world. But to come back to your question, I'm sorry for digressing really. What they did was that, if I am to tell you this in Marathi, पहली rehearsal पण होऊन गेली नाही. Dr. Lagu called every single experimental group in Bombay because he knew this was going to be a very problematic play. So he called everybody. And he said, next time we come, he read it out to them. He said, let's start rehearsals. But there was no question of rehearsal because you cannot start a rehearsal, it appears, in Maharashtra at least, before you get the damned censorship certificate. And as you have learned, as all of us have learned from Salman Rushdie's experience, one of the preconditions, generally at least, is that nobody has read your damn book. And then that's why you want it censored. So then God knows that we have had some great souls in this country. I'm not even going to talk about Nagarkar and Karve people. But even as late as the 60s and 70s, we had terrific guys. The philosophical, 3 months before he was given his PhD to come back for his family. And you know what a great thinker he was. And they all came along, and when they came, the censor board said, come and sit with us, come and sit with us. But they said, no, but we are on this guy's side. So we were all on the other side. And from 78 cuts, what we got, sorry? We got 24 cuts because, as it became time to eat and to get their, whatever their fees were, then they became impatient. So towards the end, everything was accepted barring 24 cuts. Now think about the cuts. Some of them were 1 page long, but some of them were, you take the name of Buddha or Gandhi, and that's not permitted. On what grounds, I don't know. And I was too young, and not that I would change now either, but I just thought, how much can one fight? You write something, you hope that it will go through. Didn't go through. For 14 years I didn't write a damn thing. Nobody's fault but mine. I would like to underline that. I cannot excuse myself for what I did. So, that's the story. Hey, क्या है यार?
Is there going to be a production now?
If you will act, you will have because it was done. 17 years after it was written, it was done. Achyut Deshinkar was the one who directed it.
Kiran, can you speak?
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry. Always. Achyut Deshinkar was the director, Rekha Sabnis was the producer, and you cannot imagine what a ball the actors had. The chorus is forgive the language, is a real swine. He is so devious, he is so sly, and of course, it is impossible not to get, a rise out of the whole thing. So, they had 25 performances. At that time, unfortunately, I did not know Sanjana. I think I would have got more access to Kuchi at that time. But the actors put in the money, they got it translated into Hindi, and they performed it. So, anybody wants to do it? If you're damn good as an actor and not as terrible an actor as Kiran Nagarkar is, then we've got something good.
Sir, is this still relevant today, do you think?
And if you read the reviews, they'll tell you that it is far more relevant today across the world than it ever was before. I mean, look at what's happening. Trump is there. Look at what is happening with the ISIS and things. This play is about responsibility. I have not had a chance to say this, but this play is entirely about responsibility. Don't forget that now she's 92 years old, that Jewish woman, the survivor from the Holocaust, who said after the massacres of the Palestinian children, she said that if you do not stand up and act, then you're complicit in the murder of the children. But even more than her, it was that lady who was bumped off. She was first, I've forgotten her name now. She was captured by ISIS. And she doesn't even say you're complicit. She says you're party to the crime. She was bumped, she was killed. A very fine human being. And then when recently I had occasion to give a talk at the David Sassoon Library, of course the one thing that I remember was that 3-year-old child. The 3-year-old Syrian child who was so badly wounded. Just before he died, he said, I'm going to tell God everything. You know what he could tell God? That Kiran Nagarkar sat and talked but did bugger all, like all of us. It's not a happy thought. So really, if we are genuinely concerned about what is going on in our backyard, somewhere else, whether it is in the States or wherever, if we are not going to stand up and say no more, then who's going to say it? How shall we deal with it? This is a genuine question. How should we get anybody starting from... I wrote this play because I was angry with myself. Many people thought, oh, Kiran is talking about us and he's so superior. What? I was disgusted with myself that I allowed the Vietnam War and the Americans to destroy democratically elected presidents and prime ministers. We just allow it. Look what is happening at the center. I mean, how can we allow it? What are they so insecure about? Will you tell me this?
No, what I want to say is, you just mentioned about Gita. Do you not think the Krishna has already given answer to all this in Gita?
No.
I mean, that's what we carry. What he says is, whenever there is a glani to dharma, I will be there. You do nothing. Sirs, do nothing. I will come. When there is a giddiness to dharma, in thousands of years or whatever, I am there. So who's going to do this? Not you and me, sir. What Gita says is he's going to come and do it for us.
And not at all. That's why he tells Arjuna to fight the battle. Without ever paying attention to the fruit, the consequences.
Correct.
He does not say, otherwise why is Arjuna there? It is primarily because Krishna says to him, go and fight that war. I mean, we have a difference of opinion.
No, then why does he say that, yada yada hi dharmasya?
No, I completely agree. But that is why the Gita is such a major document. It has contradictions. How can we avoid it? It was not written by one person, for God's sake. We all know that. It was written by many. And that is why the Gita will never become irrelevant. You have to speak loudly. I am yelling away and I can't hear you. Sorry.
It's premature to comment. But from your words like this, what you were saying, you said it's a magnificent philosophy.
Sorry?
It's a magnificent philosophy. Gita or the lineage, or Mahabharata or whatever, Ramayana.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is you had written a letter to connect. You wrote a letter to connect. And the other major event is Rohit Vepla's, you mentioned, you referred to it in your letter. The narrative, what is happening in the country right now, across universities or wherever the discussions are happening, they are questioning the basic philosophy what you are referring to. The Hindu philosophy what you are referring to. They are questioning that. The most oppressed sects in the society, like the Dalits or the tribals or the most backward classes are the Buddha. They are questioning the basic philosophy that is being taught here.
Can I just... So I think there's a difference in the way you are saying the Gita or Hindu philosophy, and what I'm hearing is the difference in the way you are saying it and the difference in the way Kiran is talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So since I have not gone through his book totally.
So I think what Kiran is saying is, and I agree with him, is he's actually saying when you have a major book of philosophy or you have such a great mythology, what you are being asked to do constantly is to enter into the discourse. That it isn't about, they're not giving you an answer, God is not giving you an answer. Am I correct to say that?
Absolutely.
And what, in that sense, you are being most Hindu if you actually allow for discourse and difference of opinion and not saying this is how it is to be Hindu and you have to be that. Am I correct to sum it up that way?
Yeah, entirely.
Also, if I may add, I'll just differ a little with the gentleman here. That when I think this is my interpretation, that when Krishna is saying that I'll be there whenever Dharma needs me, I think he did exactly that during the war. He was there to show the path, but Arjun fought. So he'll probably be there through his words and the Gita and whatever is there to show the path. But someone here has to step up and take that stance and do something about it.
I'd like to just add to what you're saying and also respond a little differently to you, sir. That I see your point as waiting for the savior, and in other words, I feel that that's, not taking on any personal responsibility.
Sorry, I'm gonna... No, that's okay. People want to hear what's being said, so if you could speak into the mic. Yeah.
Sorry, I'd just like to add to what the lady had just said and the first point raised by this gentleman. The way I see your point, sir, you would like to wait for the savior, and I feel that in doing so, you absolve yourself of any personal responsibility. And it's this whole aspect of social responsibility which comes from taking the first step. I myself do that. Unless you do that, I don't think that you're really sort of serving your time purposefully. That's the way I look at it.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong or whether she's wrong. What I'm saying is, This is something as possibly, as a Hindu philosophy, as a Hindu philosophy, I mean, this is something which we have been imbibed throughout the generations. I mean, for thousands of years, that there would be a savior coming in, and who is going to save us? I'm talking about this issue of standing up, what we spoke about. Why don't we possibly stand up is not because we cannot stand up, but we think, yes, somebody else has to do it, not me. Why should I? Somebody else has to do it. And that somebody else possibly is something we are talking about, savior or I don't know. But we always, I mean, collectively as a society, we don't do that. We don't stand up to anything. Like for example, his old drama which was banned. I don't know who stood up. Tendulkar's dramas which got banned. Who stood up for it?
But don't you think we should stand up?
Or I say we must stand up.
Oh, then that's
the only thing is whether the luggage of our so-called philosophies that possibly we are carrying, is it preventing us from standing up?
Yes,
No.
I'll just say.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the luggage or the baggage is perhaps what you're personally carrying. It's your interpretation.
Also, may I just add? Also, if we are talking about a savior or waiting for a savior, well, savior came in human forms, and who is to say it is not him or one of them or someone sitting here? The person who takes the step will become the savior. It is the human form.
Talking about Jesus also?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Of course.
And prophet
Good
also.
Lord. And like every good person that we know, genuinely good person, those guys die poor. And never mind what kind of gurus have become industrialists. No more to be said.
I just wanted
You should have written letter to the teachers and not Kanhaiya Kumar. You should have written a letter to their teachers at the university.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind.
As to why you read.
No, they can't read. They must be literate.
I just wanted to actually kind of contradict the point which was being said about we not acting. As very rightly said, it's not only Hindu philosophy which says that there is a savior. I mean, there is Jesus, there is multiple other things. And it's not that we are not standing up. There are people who are getting, I don't know who's carrying this baggage, but there are people who are definitely not carrying that baggage. There are people who are taking that stand. They are getting killed for it, they are getting jailed for it, and they are doing that. And as very rightly you said that, let's not forget the first freedom struggle. We did that, we got free, we need to do that again. So I think it's a very comfortable zone that those who can afford to get into saying, oh, we have this baggage and we can't get it. If you actually, it's your daughter or your wife or yourself will get affected by that directly. If tomorrow you will not have water to drink, then all that baggage will get thrown away automatically because it becomes an issue of survival. So I think it's our very middle class, happy home 2 BHK flat mentality that makes us say that we have that baggage. No, if you really need to make a difference, there is no baggage for it.
Sir, how this entire piece played out. I saw Draupadi asking a lot of questions, but I still saw her very vulnerable. Why didn't she have any agency, sir? Of taking her decision forward and standing up for herself. She's questioning the Pandus and she's questioning the Kauravas. What about herself?
You asked a very relevant question, but I think I'm forgetting the fact that us menfolk have done our level best never to allow women to have a voice. Because I have turned the thing around. Yes, my Draupadi tries to rebel, I'm not denying that. But you you saw what happens in the Mahabharata. In that sense, I had to be true to the Mahabharata. I make the person rebel, and in the next act, we are back to where we were. Okay? I had no choice beyond that. Oddly enough, the last act is a tragic one. It is none other than the self-made blind woman, Gandhari. Can you imagine? She's the one who's lost 100 sons. And her sorrow. Sorry, I was about to switch into Marathi. She actually tells Krishna, I'm going to take, even one of the versions, earlier versions I had not realized. That's the same thing. I thought I was doing it for the first time. As always, I was wrong. The epics have done it all. In one version, she takes the scarf that she's tied around her eyes out, and she tells Krishna, I'm going to incinerate you for the fact that you were partly responsible for this great war. So, do we want to remember this? It's an extremely important thing, isn't it? But we have made up our minds to try and glide over it. So I can't agree more with you about the fact that all of us men try and see to it in every which way, how shall we kick the women out?
I can just take one more question. We've been waiting. It's time. You're ready to. Unfortunately, we have to.
These young people have not said a word.
Okay, two questions. One question there, and what I'll do is, I'll take a question. Okay. I'll take a question. Then we'll have a response, and then maybe everybody can go to a restaurant nearby and continue the conversation if they want. But we have to let the staff here go home. Just a second.
Thanks, Kiran. It was wonderful. I'm so happy that I'm so happy that I came here. I have two very contradictory questions. And one, what gives you hope in times like this? And I don't want to take an easy answer of looking at the young, because in some ways it is shirking my own responsibility. That's one. And the second question, which is again there's a contradiction in it, is that at a deep philosophical level, I believe all manthan is very good. See, all churn, something is going to come out of it. At the midst of it, it looks very hopeless. But I think that's what somewhere our culture talks about it. That the churn is good. So I know there's a contradiction in what I'm asking, but I want to know your view on it, and how do you see it unfolding?
We'll ask the other question and then you'll answer. I'll get this question also.
I don't think I need a mic.
Okay, you don't
Did everyone hear?
Yes.
So my question was essentially, since you write both in Marathi and in English, and you have right now been speaking about subversive writing and uncovering narratives that don't exist, or rather have not been part of the mainstream. What is the language of revolution today? And what language do we use to put forth an ideology of tolerance, the ideology you spoke about? And how does language impact the way we rebel?
There's a saying in Marathi, "Mala dharevar dharve." That's what you've got on that. Not that, hey, let me make one thing clear, okay? I don't have answers. I might pretend to be the Pope, but I'm not. Okay. But I thought you supplied the answer yourself. You caught me red-handed because you asked about my feeling. How do I feel? Do I feel despondent? If I am to be very honest at this moment, I feel extremely despondent. I cannot permit myself to be despondent is a different story. But I feel terribly despondent because I just cannot put my arms around this. Why are they looking for trouble? You know, I mean, I'm talking about at the center, there is no need. Why is it so insecure? Every time you will have these, you know, I mean, I'm very grateful to that lady, what's her name, Sita something. She's the Minister for Commerce of State of Commerce. Nirmala, sorry. I used to quake when she used to come on the TV, you know, because they have never been wrong in their lives. They have never suffered from a doubt in their lives. And all she would say was, how dare you do that? Or think that, Arey, kya hai bhai? I am made to make mistakes. I am human. You are not. So, you know, and all of them have suffered from this. And this is not a defense of the Congress by a long shot. Mr. Modi has to give the Bharat Ratna to Sonia Gandhi. It's obvious, without her who could have won. There's no way. But talking about despondency, I do feel extremely despondent. At the same time, you said about the mountain, about this turmoil, about this shake-up, about this whirlpool. I hope to God you are right. And I don't want it to take a long time, you know. They say that these cycles occur, etc., etc. Yeah, we had 70 years of a good democracy, in the sense, secularity was secular to the na. So why have they wiped it out? I have not understood this. So let's hope that your manthan happens very soon. As to you, young friend, all I can say is that, and repeat what one of my two gurus, one guru said, any language is as powerful as you make it. Whether it's Marathi, Hindi, Tamil, or whichever language you want to make it, just use it powerfully and always question yourself and make sure that Kiran Nagarkar and everybody else has to take note of what you're saying. You know, there is no special language, really there isn't. Because every language has the whole of its civilization behind it, right? So anything that you contribute is going to be absolutely marvelous if it is well thought out. It is argued very carefully, and you're always willing to say, oh, I got it wrong. In India, there are two things that are never done. Have you ever heard an Indian say, I don't know? Out of the question. So when we don't know, let's just say I don't know. And when I make a mistake, as I've said time and again, the first thing that I do is change. And my friends have always said, Sala, no backbone. But why would I have a backbone if the other guy is right and I'm wrong? All I want to be is in the right. So let's go that route. Okay? I tell you what a terrific audience here has been. God bless, God bless.